Greetings, everyone. It's the first Monday of April, and welcome back to AMN Academy, where we give you free lessons on English examinations and next generation NCLEX. Every first and third Monday of the month, it's the turn of 9.09er English to give you free lessons on the various English examinations that are accepted for USA Visa Screen and License Endorsement. Every second and fourth Monday of the month, it's the turn of the Nursing Review Center partners of AMN Healthcare International to give you free lessons on the next generation NCLEX. But it's the first Monday of the month, and what does this mean? For tonight, we're going to give you latest updates on the IELTS, some upcoming promotions, and we are featuring a passer on a nurse who passed the IELTS for her to tell you your story and hopefully inspire other nurses out there to face their fears, especially because we know for a fact that a lot of people considering English examinations to be more challenging as compared to the next generation NCLEX. But before we begin, before we call the British Council and before we call our featured passer, here's my question. How many of the live viewers for tonight want a free English examination? Let me just repeat that because I know there is a slight delay between StreamYard and Facebook Live. As many as those who are looking for a free English examination, not just the review, but the real thing, kindly type me in the comments section. And while waiting for you to type me, maybe you can also tag your friends who are looking for a free English test. What's the occasion and why we are giving away plenty of free English examinations? Well, next week, 9.09er English is turning 18 years old. Yes, happy birthday to 9.09er. And as part of our celebration, we are going to identify 4 lucky winners. One who is going to win a free IELTS examination worth 13,100 pesos. Number 2, we're also giving a free PTE examination worth $230, and that's around 13,300 to 13,400 pesos, depending on the charge of Visa and MasterCard. Third winner, we are giving away a free OET examination worth 587 Australian dollars, and in Philippine pesos, after the charges of Visa and MasterCard, that's around 22,000 pesos. And last but not the least, the fourth free English examination that we are giving away, it's free MET examination worth $215. That's roughly around 12,900 pesos. Once again, that's already this coming Wednesday. It's 2 nights from now. The 9.09er 18th anniversary celebration via Zoom, and it's going to start at 6 p.m. If you have not registered until now, kindly message 9.09er English, or you can message me directly. That's Irvin Neil Temporal on Facebook, and then I'll send you the free registration link. And who knows, after attending our anniversary celebration on Wednesday night, you might be going home with a free English examination. And I've repeatedly mentioned it's our 18th anniversary. That's why we are going to identify 18 lucky winners of 1,000 pesos via GCash. Not only that, our partners, including AMN Healthcare International, are going to give a lot of prizes, cash prizes, free review materials, PTE AI-powered mock examinations, AI-powered writing correction, and so many more. So all you have to do is to free up your schedule this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. Now, while we are waiting for the British Council and our featured pastor, let's take a look at some of the comments of our live viewers. Now, there are 29 of us on Facebook. Okay, once again, we would like to repeat. We have a lot of attendees, but it seems that none of you are interested in that free English examination. Remember, it's free of charge, and we are obviously very grateful that our sponsors, including the British Council Philippines, is going to give a free IELTS on computer examination. So later, Miss Marielle, one of our nurses who passed the IELTS examination, is going to share her success story. And that's the second part of our discussion. But for the first half of our discussion, it's the turn of the British Council to talk about the freebie that they are going to give this Wednesday, because I heard that there are certain conditions to be met, like the free examination to be given by the British Council is not applicable for paper-based exam, but it's only for computer-delivered examination and for certain testing centers only. Earlier this afternoon, I also saw an upcoming promotion of the British Council. I think it's called the IELTS Sulit promotion. So all that and more, we are going to hear from Mr. Mike Cabigon, the British Council Philippines Country Development Manager. Well, I'm from the Philippines. Sir Mike is from the Philippines. Our pastor is from the Philippines. But this does not mean that only Filipino nurses can join us tonight. We welcome everyone, okay? All nationalities, all nurses who would like to go to the United States of America, you are free to join our Facebook Live session for tonight. Good evening, Sir Mike.
Good evening, Sir Irvin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight.
So, Sir Mike, I heard that you have an upcoming promotion. Would you please tell us more about this promotion of the British Council?
Right. So I think beginning April 1, we've launched a new promo, and this is applicable to all test takers, whether you register directly on the website or you register with Niner. It's what we call the Sulit Deal promo. But this is limited only to IELTS on computer in certain locations: Metro Manila, Cebu, Baguio, Pampanga, and Laguna. Okay, so there is a voucher code that you need to encode when you register to be able to take advantage of the discount or the price off of 1,000 pesos. Okay, so let me talk more about the IELTS, as Sir Irvin has mentioned earlier. So IELTS has been the most widely accepted test. It's widely accepted in all states in the US. This is what we highly recommend to all nurses, so that in case there are opportunities in other states, you don't have to retake another exam or sit another test. IELTS will be the only test that you need in terms of proving your English language proficiency for the different state boards in the US. We've been doing IELTS for for almost 40 years, and we have a reputation that we keep. That's why we highly value the way we deliver IELTS in terms of the reputation and security that we have. Okay. Next slide, please. So, in terms of delivery, here are some other quick facts about the IELTS. There are three types of IELTS actually. Two of them will be needed for the UK, IELTS for UK VI and IELTS Life Skills. But as nurses bound for the US, you only need to take the regular IELTS. Currently, it's at 13,100. Sorry, the slides haven't been updated. It's 13,100. But I've mentioned about the promo earlier, which is only offered in limited testing centers for IELTS on computer. Regular IELTS is available on paper in case you're not comfortable in taking the test on computer. For paper tests, it's available 3 times a month in Manila, once a month in other locations. But for computer format, we do tests every day in Metro Manila and every weekend in our other locations or testing centers. We have 20 testing centers across the Philippines. Five of them are in Metro Manila. Two of them actually are with Niner, and later I will discuss all the other locations where you can take your exam with 9.0 Niner. Okay. Next slide, please. There are two modules for the test. There's the general training, which is generally taken by those applying for migration or skilled work. But as nurses bound for the US, you need to take the IELTS academic module. Okay. In terms of test format, next slide, please. IELTS tests all four skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. When you book your test with the British Council, you actually book the listening, reading, and writing test schedule. These three components are taken in one sitting. So for the paper test, this is usually scheduled on a Saturday morning, occasionally on a Thursday morning. For computer, this can be in the morning, in the afternoon, or in some instances, we have evening schedules as well. Now, separate from the listening, reading, and writing components is the 15-minute speaking test. This will have a separate schedule which you get to choose when you register for your IELTS test. This can be in the afternoon of your listening, reading, and writing test, or maybe in the morning if your listening, reading, and writing test on computer is in the afternoon. Okay, next slide, please. In terms of the scores, IELTS doesn't have a pass or fail mark. Basically, you just need to meet the requirements for nurses in the US, which I think is about 6 or 6.5, and 7 for writing or speaking, if I'm not mistaken. And then the IELTS scores expire after 2 years. So you recommend you take your exam when you are decided already and when you are already keen on moving to the US and applying as a nurse. Otherwise, if you're dilly dallying on your decision, your test could expire and you need to resit the test. Okay. In terms of special offers, we have the one skill resit option, which is limited to the IELTS on computer test. Next slide, please. This option actually gives you the opportunity to sit only one skill, and if ever you didn't meet the requirement or the required band score. So if you've taken the test on paper for IELTS, and you haven't met the requirements, you need to redo everything. But if you've taken the test on computer, you only have the option to take only one skill to improve on that and focus. And this costs much more affordable compared to the full test. I think it's at about 65% of the full test fee at the moment. Okay. Next slide, please. Our schedules are available on our website. As mentioned, we have 20 testing centers for IELTS on computer. Five of them are in Manila. And we have testing centers for computer in Dagupan, Tuguegarao, Vigan, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Naga, Tacloban, Bacolod, Cebu, Davao, and Dipolog City in Mindanao. Okay. Next slide, please. Niner, I mentioned earlier, we have several computer testing centers with them. I think it may be small on your screen, but we have Niner in Manila across the University of Santo Tomas, in Niner, Manila, in Picampa. And then we also have Niner Testing Center in Makati, behind Makati Medical Center. In terms of testing centers in Luzon, we have Niner Dagupan, Niner Tuguegarao, 9.0 Niner Vigan, Niner Cabanatuan, and then in South Luzon, we have Niner Cavite, Niner Laguna, and Niner Romance IS/Niner Testing Center in Batangas. For Western Visayas, we have Niner Bacolod and opening soon, Niner Iloilo Testing Center. Next slide, please. I've mentioned about IELTS on paper and IELTS on computer, but what's the main differences? Basically, it's the same test. Both formats are acceptable for your application in the US. The speaking test is delivered via video call. However, computer testing has more advantages. We have more schedules, as mentioned earlier. It can be in the morning, it can be daily, it can be in the afternoon or in the evenings. And results for IELTS on computer are much faster. You can now get your results within or after 24 hours. So you take your test now, the next day, you'll have your results instantly. Also, we no longer send out printed test result forms for the computer test. You can download them from your test taker portal as soon as the results are out. So it's faster, easily downloadable in PDF format. You download the PDF, send it out to AMN or to your employer or any other agencies you want to send your test results to. And another advantage of IELTS on computer is the one skill retake that's not available for IELTS on computer. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, the next set of slides, I'll talk through the main differences of IELTS versus the other tests in the market. Other tests are new and they say that their recognition is expanding at the moment, but for IELTS, we pride ourselves with 12,500 organizations accepting IELTS, and most of the states in the US accept IELTS as the English language test for nurses. Okay. Other tests claim, next slide please, that their test bookings are available 24/7. For the British Council, we have 20 testing centers across the country. You don't have to go to key cities like Cebu, Manila, Davao just to take your test. You can take your test anywhere near you without having to travel that long distance to be able to sit your test. Again, 20 testing centers across the country, and we're expanding. We're opening more soon. More schedules every day for IELTS on computer in Manila, every weekend in all other locations. Next slide, please. Other tests claim that they're easier, faster, and simpler, but for IELTS, we pride ourselves with the security and reliability that we've been offering for almost 40 years now, plus the several preparation materials that we have available for you, free to access, that could augment the sessions or the trainings that you might have with 9.0 Niner. And also, the one skill retake is only available for IELTS. It's not available with any other tests in the market. Next slide, please. Others claim that they deliver all their tests in one sitting. It's fine, but for IELTS, we allow some break in between sessions. So speaking test is separate from the listening, reading, and writing test to give you time as a test taker to recover, relax, and prepare yourself for the speaking test that will be about for about 15 minutes. Okay. Next slide, please. Others offer their tests only on computer. That's fine. That's a trend. We also have IELTS on computer. But then again, if you're not comfortable in taking the test on computer, maybe you're more comfortable in using the pen and paper. You can always have the paper and pen option with the British Council. Okay, next slide, please. Others say that their tests are easy, quick to score. But for IELTS, again, the slides need has been updated. It's now available after 24 hours results. I mean, and you can download your results easily via PDF format from the test taker portal. Next slide, please. So you can download your results in PDF and you can send it out to as many recipients as you want via email and attaching the PDFs to your email. Next slide, please. Now, other than the anniversary of 9.09er happening soon, we also have the mini fairs that we have with 9.09er. The next one will be scheduled for 9.09er Cabanatuan on April 26 in Nueva Ecija, and then another one at the end of May in Niner Dagupan in Pangasinan. And we hope to see you there. You can scan the QR code on your screen and register for the IELTS mini fairs. Okay, so next slide, please. If you have further questions about IELTS, you can contact us on our email address, britishcouncil@britishcouncil.org.ph, our mobile, our phone number, 85553,000, and our Facebook page, IELTS British Council Philippines. Our websites are also there where you can get most of our free resources for preparation. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sir Irvin.
Thank you so much, Sir Mike. So earlier we asked who among our live viewers want a free English examination. Again, not just the review, because the review is already sponsored by AMN Healthcare International. What we're pertaining to is the actual examination, the one that costs thousands of pesos. So, as promised, this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. Philippine time, we are giving away 4 free examinations. And we would like
Mhm,
to thank the generosity of the British Council because they are sponsoring a free IELTS on computer examination
mhm,
worth 13,100 pesos. And if you check the comment section, I actually sent there the registration link. This is open for everyone. You don't have to be an enrollee of Niner to join the event on Wednesday. So you can send the
mhm,
registration link to as many friends as you can, even those who have no plans of going abroad, because we're giving away 18,000 pesos worth of Gcash. So 18 winners on our 18th anniversary. So keep those comments coming because if you have questions regarding the IELTS, the British Council, or any English examination for that matter, then we can help you. 9.09er English, AMN Healthcare International, and the British Council working together to make it happen for you. So, what's the flow? First, you message AMN Healthcare International. It could be via Facebook or you may send an email. Please make sure to include your CV. Once you qualify for the scholarship or the sponsorship of AMN Healthcare International, you will be sent to 9.09er English where you don't have to pay a single centavo for your preparation. What's the best part? They sponsor daily one-on-one coaching from Monday to Sunday, which means to say you don't have to worry about paying a coach because everything is already sponsored by AMN Healthcare International. Now, guys, I would like to reiterate that 9.09ers specializes in daily one-on-one, and when the coach tells you that you are ready to take the examination, that's when we are going to endorse you to the British Council for the actual examination because they are the test administrator. Although they rent our offices in 11 key cities nationwide, we are working hand in hand. So whatever 9.09er offers, like the face-to-face classes and daily one-on-one coaching, that's not something the British Council does. Instead, the British Council is going to give you access to the IELTS Ready Premium. Now, I think there's a message here on StreamYard, but I have poor eyesight, so I need my glasses. Okay, so now that I have shared with you the highlights of our anniversary on Wednesday, maybe it's time for us to call our featured passer for tonight. She is none other than Miss Precious Marielle Lopez, a nurse for that matter, who passed her IELTS with the British Council. Good evening, Miss Marielle.
Hello, Sir Irvin. Good evening. Good evening from the proud island of Mindanao, and particularly here in Bukidnon.
Maayong gabi sa tanan namong kaigsuunan sa Mindanao ug sa Visayas. Now, let's take a look at some of the questions that we have prepared for Miss Marielle right here. Apparently, our session for tonight focuses on IELTS success story of our featured passer who is a nurse. So let's begin with the typical question. So, why did you review for IELTS and take this examination?
Well, there's this one time way back in perhaps months before I graduated college that I really do have this goal of going abroad. I mean, there is really no other way for me to get a goal of, being who I really am, and perhaps, being as goal oriented as I am as to going abroad. So, when I graduated college, and of course, thankfully I passed the board exams, I immediately asked my mother, what should I do? So at that time, I was working as a volunteer nurse in one of the rural hospitals here in Misamis Oriental. Well, she told me and she advised me that I had to take my IELTS exam. Well, for one, I really didn't have any idea about it. I only know about, the other tests, and perhaps, how difficult all other subtests were. So I was practically terrified. But seeing there are a lot of nurses, my seniors in particular, who were already in the US at that time. So I was practically, um, I was practically, motivated to actually take the IELTS exam and perhaps review for it.
Thank you for that, for giving us a historical perspective on how it all started. So, Miss Precious right here thought of going abroad even before graduation, and we know there are so many nursing students in the Philippines right now who are preparing for their graduation, but what's next after graduation and what's next after the local board examination? That's when AMN Healthcare International is going to enter the picture to help you fulfill that American dream. So now we have established that Miss Marielle over here is thinking of going abroad even before graduation. So fast forward to your IELTS preparation. How did it start and how did it go?
Well, I think everyone knows about this, especially my family, that this one is actually a big contemplation of my dreams, especially that of my late mother. Well, my late mother was also a nurse, and she had this American dream by which that unfortunately it wasn't fulfilled. So, as a nurse myself, I actually had the motivation to actually pursue my dreams. And right now, I'm very thankful that I already had my IELTS test. Well, for one, I enrolled at Niner at a very, very funny story. Well, to be very honest, I had no idea about Niner at that time because I only knew about this other review centers, but then during that time when I attended a convention, a nurses convention by the Ornap. Was that the Ornap or was that the PNA chapter of Misamis Oriental? Niner was a booth there. Like there was a Niner booth there, and I've heard of Niner about. I mean, I've heard about Niner during my trips in Manila that time, and then I didn't know that there was a local Niner. Like there was a Niner branch in Cagayan de Oro. So at that time, I inquired, and there they told me that they were offering a discount. When I knew that they had a discount, a I had to take a slip. But then unfortunately I did not have the money for payment. So I asked if ever I could get it, but then unfortunately they only had 1 day discount. But then because I had a good talk with my parents and they actually lent me the money, the next day I had I needed to have a day off, and then that time I enrolled, and that was the start of my review. To be very honest, I really didn't know where to start because honestly I was a little bit depressed. I was so down at that time because I already had multiple takes in IELTS, and unfortunately I did not get my desired score. So thankfully with Niner, everything was just, I think it was God sent. I think it was also what we call what you call that blessing in disguise perhaps. Okay, so I was really thankful that Niner was there in that particular event.
Thank you for that story. Now let's move on to two questions. Well, now that you've mentioned you passed your IELTS, which subtest would you consider to be the easiest of them all? And which subtest did you find most challenging? Because maybe with your experience, you can help the nurses who are currently preparing for their IELTS to decide, okay, this is going to be my study plan. I'll begin with this subtest, followed by this subtest. And because this one is most challenging, I'll make it last. So let's begin with your easiest subtest. Which one is it? Listening, reading, writing, or speaking?
Well, it's always speaking. Not I'm not gonna lie. Speaking has always been my forte. The speaking questions were really trivial, and as someone who is really enjoying those Q&A sessions, especially that of some TV programs before, so I think that I had that particular advantage for speaking test. And during my review, I actually had a lot of compliments from my coaches. I was able to improve, especially on my content. When they told me that I had to focus on these things, such as content, grammar, I actually did not waste any time in improving it because I know that I could do it. I could do better than what I did before.
I think it's pretty obvious that speaking subtest is the favorite of Miss Marielle over here. Look at how talkative she is, right? And I'm not saying this in a negative way. In fact, what we need you to do is just to speak your heart out in the actual examination. You don't have to be formal, actually. Just visualize the examiner as someone you're having a conversation with. And looking at Miss Precious right here, I think she's having a great time sharing her story. She doesn't sound nervous. She just opens her mouth, shares with us her experiences. So, if speaking is the easiest for her, which subtest would you consider to be the most challenging for you?
Well, to be very honest, it's always writing. I cannot express and I cannot fathom how disheartening my scores were in the past. Well, before I was with Niner, my scores were actually above 7 except for writing. It's always around 6 or 7. I keep on questioning myself, like, of all the things that I did right, where did I go wrong? But thankfully, when I enrolled at Niner, the very first review class lecture that I actually attended was content writing. And to be very honest, I was so relieved because right then and there I realized where I went wrong. I had this big contemplation on that, on those 3 hours of lecture, and I told myself that, okay, now I know where I went wrong. I knew where I went haywire, and I was just glad that I actually had that class at the very beginning, because there I had the chance to correct what I did wrong. I had the chance to actually unlearn what I have to unlearn and learn and improve what I needed to improve.
And this is actually the difficulty nowadays in this dangerous age of social media, of YouTube and TikTok, that sometimes when we're just watching entries on YouTube and TikTok, we're saying, okay, I've been speaking in English since birth. I've got this in the bag. So you self-review by merely relying on the videos on YouTube and TikTok, then take the examination. And that's when you realize, so maybe it's not enough that I'm talkative in English. Maybe I need guidance or like professional help from people who have been doing this for the longest time. So Miss Marielle right here, as she shared her experience, she consistently passed the speaking subjects, but it's the writing subjects where she's having problems with. Luckily for her, the first class she attended is content writing. And after her first attempt, after reviewing with Niner, there you go. She got the required band scores in all four components. Now, during your preparation with Niner, not to include the months or the weeks that you have allotted while you were just self reviewing, how many months did it take for you to pass the examination with 9.0 Niner as your review provider?
Well, to be very honest, I had very hard times, sir, especially with my review schedule. At that time, I was still working as a nurse full time. And to be very honest, we only had 1 day off. That was a Friday for me. My only day off was Friday, and I really didn't have any more time for review. So during my work days, it's always about work and rest, and then the rest was like I really didn't have any more time for reading or even just to write one essay. There's really no time, so I had to maximize my 1 day off for review. And because of that, I also have to travel to Cagayan de Oro that time. Who I mean, it was actually they actually offered face-to-face classes there, and I was really thankful that they were very accommodating. They actually had very good coaches, and because of that, I think I spent one around a month at that time. But then eventually I had to resign because of some circumstances, and those were actually something that I really did not expect, but that's fine. Okay, so because of that, I still had more time in my hands, so I had to maximize. So with that, I was able to do constant practices for about 2 to 3 months, and after that, I decided to evaluate with my coach, and then she said that I think I already was ready. So at first, I was so nervous. I was feeling like, am I really ready? I was asking myself, I was even questioning my skills if I was already good for a 7.0 for everything, knowing that at that time I will be having my, I think, my seventh. Yes, and I told my mother that if ever I get another 6.5 or 6.0 in my writing, I don't think that going abroad would be my destiny. But thankfully, because of those 3 months of staggering review, having to wake up early in the morning and somehow go through a very tight review schedule, except for afternoons, like every MWF, I actually gave myself time in the afternoon to go to Cagayan de Oro and actually have my review and my coaching. So with that, at least I have something to do in the morning, and then in the afternoon I had to travel, and then the next day would be another staggering set of practice tests, or even for maybe one day of having self practices for speaking. One percent.
Guys, 2 to 3 months. That's the recommend. That's the typical recommendation of 9.09er because on the average, our reviewees would usually allot 2 to 3 months of preparation for them to get their required band score. Now, let's move on to the next question. Well, for sure, there are so many English examinations available in the market, but why did you choose IELTS over other English exams?
Well, for one, I know that IELTS is the gold standard of all English exams. At that time, there was already other English tests, and to be very honest, I really didn't have much information about them. So I was even actually asking some of my friends who are already in America, and I asked them about these tests, and they were like they also didn't know all about it. So I was like, maybe, to save myself from any potential scams or whatnots, because I really didn't have any other information about them. So I just had to go with IELTS, and not to mention that IELTS is also accepted in all states in America. And as what I have observed, a lot of my friends have also taken IELTS, and they're actually very open worldwide. So I then decided to have IELTS for my English exam then.
Good choice. Because with IELTS, it's the only English examination accepted by literally all the states in the United States of America. If you choose other examinations, yes, that might be enough for your visa screen, but not all of the states accept other English examinations for license endorsement. So before you think of taking other English examinations, just remember that if you take IELTS, you hit two birds with one stone: visa screen certificate and license endorsement. So everyone knows that there are two options for IELTS. One is the British Council and the competitor of the British Council. So my question is, why did you choose the British Council as your testing center for IELTS?
Well, for one, to be very honest, Sir Irvin, of of all the exams that I've taken, of all my IELTS exam taken, it's always been British Council. Okay, they actually told me to transfer, but then I said no. I actually prefer British Council because number one is for their preparation materials. When I got my email that my exams was already scheduled and it was already confirmed. So at that time, I was given some practice materials, and when I ran through them, it was actually very good. I mean, the tips, the strategies, I think everything that I needed for reinforcement of my skills was actually there. And not to mention that the examination experience was actually quite more, let's say, comfortable. And I actually had a good experience at that time because I literally didn't have to worry about any distractions, any noise from outside, anything else. Not to mention the invigilators and the staff were also very kind enough to cater for my needs, because at that time I was actually having some I was actually practically sick. So I had to take my medication, and they actually assisted me for it. So yeah, I think British Council is actually the best. Okay, the best, and perhaps for me, as per experience, I think we should really invite everyone to have their IELTS exam with the British Council.
Thank you for that. Now we are down to our last two questions before the last few words of advice. There are so many nurses out there who are still undecided as to which English examination to take. So my question is, would you recommend IELTS as their English examination for visa application?
Yes, certainly, definitely, it's always the IELTS. You know why? Because number one, it's affordable. I mean, if ever we have a table that compares and contrasts the price for all English tests out there, it's always the IELTS that is practically cheaper, and perhaps it's not really that it's not really painful, for to our pockets. And not to mention that the IELTS is also accepted worldwide, especially in the US, where I think all states actually accepts IELTS, and the requirements are not really that heavy. And not to mention that the subtests here in IELTS is actually an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity for me to improve my skills. I learned to listen well with the listening skills, I mean, with the listening subtest. I also learned how to read effectively and find answers effectively to because of the IELTS. Number three, my writing skills practically improved, especially with how to do an essay, or perhaps do a writing academic report. And not to mention, it also made me realize that these IELTS speaking tests are actually very good, especially improving with conversations. I mean, somehow we just have to go out of our comfort zones, and having to see that improvement was actually one of the best things that I saw. And perhaps having to realize that IELTS would really be helpful for nurses, especially for those who are going to the US. I mean, if you want to let's say change, or maybe perhaps go to another state, IELTS is the exam that one must take, because anywhere else will actually be practically accepted, especially with IELTS.
Thank you for your honesty, Miss Precious. Now we are down to the last part of our Facebook Live session for tonight. So we are going to ask Sir Mike, and we are going to ask Miss Precious right here to give us their last few words of advice to the nurses who are still about to prepare for their English examination, the nurses who have this inner saboteur thinking that you might not be good enough in English, you will have a difficulty in taking this English test. Maybe let's begin with Miss Precious, and then later we'll ask Sir Mike for his last few words of wisdom. Miss Precious, this is your last chance to inspire and motivate fellow nurses in their English examination journey.
Okay, so guys, fellow nurses, my colleagues, my beloved colleagues, hang in there. Hang in there. No matter how difficult things may be, no matter how stressed we are, no matter how difficult all the subtests may be, especially for those who are still working right now, and you don't have much time. Guys, please hang in there. You're already there. You've done so much already. You've gone so far now. Okay, you're already there. Please do not give up. Okay? I know that this will be so hard, coming from someone who has failed the IELTS exam how many times already. And you know what, having to choose the right exam, and of course the right review center for you, well, that's British Council IELTS, and of course 9.09er. Well, this combination is a foolproof. Okay? It's foolproof, and to be very honest, just believe in yourself, believe in the words and the encouragement of your lecturers, the encouragement of your coaches, as well as their advices. Okay? And of course, trust yourself, because if not for your confidence, and if not for your self trust, guys, your American dream will always be there. And remember that your American dream is just one IELTS and niner away.
That is such an inspiration. So thank you so much for being a source of motivation to other nurses. Guys, hopefully you were able to get something from personal experience of Miss Precious right here, and that should perhaps motivate you to be better than your best. So thank you so much for your time, Miss Precious. Sir Mike, last few words to our live attendees and dear nurses for tonight.
Right. I believe Precious has said it all. That was really motivating, Precious. So thank you. Again, I would have to support what Precious has mentioned. Continue on. Take advantage of what Niner and the British Council is offering to you. Take advantage of all the resources. Keep on practicing and have faith in yourself that you'll be able to achieve your target band score when you take the IELTS. I wish you all the best and good luck in all your endeavors in your application for the US.
Thank you so much, Sir Mike. Thank you so much, British Council Philippines. And guys, don't forget the IELTS Sulit promo of the British Council. For more details, kindly go to the Facebook page or website of the British Council Philippines. And that wraps up our discussion for tonight. In 2 weeks' time, Sir Brian will be back. And during that time, he'll be doing on the spot writing for academic writing, writing task one, which is the same task that nurses need to accomplish in order for them to go to the United States of America. So this is going to be our structure for the two Facebook Live sessions of 9.09er with AMN Academy. Every first Monday of the month, we are going to feature an IELTS passer, someone who made it with the British Council. And the third Monday of the month, that's when me and Sir Brian will be giving you free lessons. So we're done with on the spot speaking before on the spot IELTS essay writing. So 2 Mondays from now, we are going to have IELTS on the spot writing for writing task one, and that's academic writing or statistical report. 4 Mondays from now, we'll be with the British Council once again and feature a different IELTS passer during that time. So once again, thank you all so much, and we hope that you're going to maximize the offer, the sponsorship of AMN Healthcare International for qualified nurses, free English review, and you will be sent to us 9.09er, where we will endorse you to the British Council for your actual examination. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.